Welcome to the Travel Like a Boss podcast, the radio show all about traveling like a boss by being your own boss. Stay tuned for weekly interviews featuring guests that have built their own online businesses. If you would like to have access to our entire back catalog, visit travellikeabosspodcast.com for instant access. And here's your host, Johnny FD.
Hey everyone, this is Johnny and welcome to episode 131 of the Travel Like a Boss podcast. I am with my buddy Nicolas Gregoriades.
Good to be here, Johnny. Thanks for having me on, bud.
I'm excited that I finally pronounced your name correctly.
What is it? It's only been like 5 or 6 years and you finally got it right, yeah?
Nick's been on the podcast a few times. Episode 8, Black Belt Business Jiu-Jitsu with Nicolas Gregoriades, as well as episode 73, Know Thyself. Does having a 6-pack and $100,000 a year make you happy? Welcome back.
Thanks, buddy. I still don't know the answer to the $100,000 a year question, but hopefully I will soon.
Yeah, you're making $100,000 a year?
Not a fuck, dude.
Seriously?
No.
What are you doing on the show?
I wish I could say I am, but no, I'm not.
I remember you were making really good passive income for a while. Did that drop, or did it just never add up to $100,000?
So my income has never actually been that passive, Johnny. Like most of the stuff I do requires a lot of on-hands management. I just left one of my businesses because I just couldn't take the amount of energy and time that it was requiring of me. So I just I left that one.
Which business was that?
It was a business, medical education business.
Oh man, that was a big source of income.
Yeah, it really was.
How much were you getting per month for that?
I mean, I was probably making a few grand a month.
Like $3,000, $5,000?
Yeah, probably $5,000.
That's a lot of money to walk away from.
Yeah, it is, but it wasn't making me happy, bud. And I felt that the mental energy and stress that it was, the toll that it was taking on me, I just realized that energy, I needed that energy free to take things to the next level, if you know what I mean.
I respect that a lot. Absolutely a lot. And it's crazy because I think from the outside, when you first told me about that, and I think we talked about it in one of the episodes, it sounded like the dream job. You were partnering with a guy who was in the medical field. Was he a doctor or?
He is a doctor. He's still my business partner in another business I have. And he's an incredible doctor, an incredible man. It's just his vision for that particular business and my vision, like they kind of diverged a little bit. Like what it would take to take that business to the next level, I didn't have in me. I'm not interested enough in the medical profession for me to get excited about it.
I think that was what was really interesting about that was the fact that you were more of the web guy, and that's not really your strengths, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, like I think we're both better than, let's say, the average person who doesn't know anything about web at all, but neither of us are that techy.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, I think guys like you and I, we're not really technical guys at heart. Like we're more. It sounds so wanky to say, but I think we're more like artists in our own way, and so it's difficult. I think it's one of the great travesties is when an artistic person has their skills or their ability shoehorned into something that they're good enough to do, but they don't really shine in. And then after a while, they keep knowing in the back of their minds that like, this isn't I'm not shining here. I'm not doing what I should be doing. But after a while, as you know, I heard on one of Ferris's podcasts, one of his guests said, the most dangerous thing you can ever say is, but the money's good, and it hit me with that is I realized like, yeah, the money is good, but the feeling isn't,
I 100% agree with that. And if anyone is listening to this and you guys live in Dubai, I'm willing to bet you have said, but the money is good.
Yeah.
I have never met anyone there that is really happy with their life and their job and being there. 100% of the people I've met that live and work there have said, the money is great.
Yeah, I do respect that kind of mentality. Like I'll put 5 years of my life into something, make a huge bankroll, and then I can do whatever I want, wherever I want. I respect that a lot.
Sam Boyd, the owner of Phuket Top Team, one of the MMA gyms down south, he worked either on an oil rig or a coal mine in Australia for 5 years, saved up every penny, didn't go to strip clubs and, drink too much, bars, and do everything else, the people on his rig were doing. Saved all of it up, over $100,000, came to Thailand, opened this gym because that was his dream.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's really cool.
And so it's something that I respect a lot.
Yeah, me too. I kind of respect even more, even though it's a lot harder road and it's the chances of success aren't as high. I respect the guy who's like, I'm gonna look towards my dreams and just head in that direction, and no matter what happens, just push myself. And then he's the guy who like eventually succeeds and achieves, you know. Like, I love that story. Like, your story is similar, man. You walked away from, it's my understanding, I don't know the story very well, but you walked away from something pretty stable in LA with nothing, and you struggled for a while. You didn't go work in a coal mine or anything like that, but you struggled for a while, but you struck it rich, bro. Like, and I love that. That's, if I think of my story, that's the way I would like my story one day when I relate it to someone to play out, you know?
I like it. I mean, the fact that you walked away from $60,000 a year is a big accomplishment.
Thanks, man.
And it's not like you were making 60 grand at a full-time job, even though I'm sure it took a lot of time. You were still able to do other things on the side and work on your other businesses or other opportunities. But it just, I agree. I can see why that would take such a big mental space where even if you had time to do other things, you couldn't really commit to other things.
Yeah, you articulated it perfectly. It was a big mental space. I remember, like, I mean, it was only a few weeks ago that I left that business, and it's now at the point I wake up in the morning, I don't have that sinking feeling of like, I'm going to turn on my phone and there's going to be some email about an urgent issue or some, do you know what I mean? Like, to avoid that is worth more than $60,000 a year to me. Like, I couldn't live like that anymore, man. I really couldn't.
So I'm curious, did he buy you out or anything? Did you at least get a lump sum?
No, actually, I just walked away from it, and I feel that was the right thing to do because he definitely put in more work to that business than I did, and it just was the right thing to do. You know,
I respect that so much. I think to me that's a very abundant mentality. I think there's a lot of people, they feel entitled to have a chunk of something, even if they haven't put the work into it. One of my favorite TV shows is The Prophet.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, it's such a good show.
Okay.
I really think you'll like it.
I'll watch it tonight.
If you like Shark Tank, you'll love The Prophet. He's like a smarter version of the sharks that not only does he invest in the company, he goes in, gets his hands dirty, fixes everything.
Oh, it sounds interesting.
It's amazing. But one of the things I learned from it was every time there's an investor involved, so they'll go and they'll meet the owners who are struggling, the business isn't going well, they need Marcus to come in and kind of save it, and then they find out kind of down the road that there's someone that owns a third of the business who never shows up. They just put maybe some money into the business, or maybe they did a little bit of work in the beginning, and they show up to the meetings always very smug, always kind of thinking they're entitled to this big chunk of the business because it's on contract or because they were there in the beginning, even though the other, the main person, they're there every day, 7 days a week sometimes, working at the business and struggling. There's that one person that's kind of like, oh well, I technically own a third of it because I started it, even though they haven't been there kind of throughout. And that person, it's one of those weird things that obviously they have money, they had enough money to get in, or maybe they just got lucky. But either way, I almost never see them kind of just being the better man and saying, you know what, why don't you dilute my shares, because obviously you're putting in more money, these guys are the ones doing all the work, I haven't done anything in the last year, I haven't even showed up in the last year, and maybe I shouldn't be involved.
yeah I get that. You mentioned abundance mentality, and I like to think that that's what it came down to for me. I just found as well, like whenever I wanted to start a new project or put energy into something else, my fiance is similar in that we can only really work on one project a day, because when for example for me, when my energy is focused on something, it kind of tunes into the polarity of whatever that subject is. If it's like a jiu-jitsu project, or I'm writing an article for another website, or whatever it is, like if it's a creative endeavor, my brain tunes into that part of itself, like the creative part. And then if I go and look at a spreadsheet and detune it back to that spreadsheet mode, or answering a customer email mode, or whatever it might be, it's kind of lost for the day. I've lost that. Do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense?
If you look at my closet, I have a printout, black and white printout that says color of the day. And in Thailand, there is a chart that says your lucky colors of the day, the unlucky color. And at first I thought it would just be funny to wear the color, and maybe like the Thai staff at the co-working space would notice and have a laugh from it. But what it's done is it's eliminated a decision right in the morning, right when your brain is just waking up, and normally, you're kind of groggy and you're thinking, okay, I gotta figure this out, get to the office, you open that spreadsheet or that customer email, and it just takes mental energy. And by me just looking at the chart and just matching up the color, grabbing a shirt that has color, first off, I feel like it's a little mini accomplishment in the morning, but also second, it's one less decision I have to make. And the other thing about waking up and having to deal with this other business that I really agree with. When I was running my dropshipping store, one of the biggest reasons why I sold it was because even though it only take me maybe 1 or 2 hours in the morning to take care of, it was a 24/7 drain on my brain.
Yeah, 100%. You took the words out of my mouth. It's almost like I don't really believe in the your brain is the hardware, your thoughts are or your conditioning is the software analogy anymore. But it's probably the best one we have for how our minds work. And you know how like your computer has all these background processes running, right? For me, that was a background process, and very often a foreground process that was just chowing up emotional energy, mental energy, like just on a massive rate. And it's the strangest thing about life, dude. I'm sure you've experienced this a lot. Like you have to be able to let some things go to start other things. It's just a law of nature or the universe or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Even with a relationship.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I've been wanting to talk to Larissa more often just because I miss her, you know, and we're friends, but I just stop myself because I know that if I keep her around as a friend that I talk to all the time or someone that I call when I'm lonely or I'm bored, it's really hard to move on.
Yeah, it's an energetic tie. Like life, I've seen it so many. The weirdest thing happened as well, Johnny. Like not a word of a lie. There was another project in my life that I'm really wanting to put, or that I wanted to put focus on and wanted to grow. And it was one of the things that was suffering because of my involvement with this other business. And the day after I left, officially, like 2 or 3 people just messaged me out of the blue saying, "Hey, dude, would you come on this show? Would you do this for us? Or would you write an article? Or I've got this opportunity." It was the weirdest thing. It is way, way more than just coincidence. It's one of those things that makes me believe in like the unseen world, you know?
Yeah, and I have no idea if somehow it puts out a signal in the world of your availability, or maybe you start noticing these opportunities more often when you can actually do it versus, you know, having it kind of just get lost in your inbox or not, just not thinking twice about it. But I do believe that once you kind of free yourself up, you see a lot more opportunities, or a lot more opportunities come somehow.
My theory at the moment, or the theory I subscribe to is, I don't know if do you know who Terence McKenna is?
No.
He was a psychonaut and philosopher, probably one of the greatest minds of the 20th century. And he had a saying which was that nature loves courage, right? And I really believe that. I believe that when you act courageously, nature rewards you most of the time. I mean, obviously, like if it's to like push a woman out of the road and when a truck's coming, sometimes it doesn't reward you, you get squashed. But most of the time, nature or the universe or whatever, insert whatever word you want to, it's waiting for you to step up and take that courageous action. And no one can do it for you. No one can do it for you. Like if, for example, I had waited and let things get so bad with my business partner and everything until he just like contacted a lawyer and we had to and I was forced out of it, I can guarantee you pretty much that those opportunities wouldn't have presented themselves because I didn't have to act courageously. I just let it happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree on being courageous and that fortune favors the bold.
100%, dude. 100%, yeah.
I like it.
Funny you mentioned that. I actually there was someone I was writing a letter to earlier today, and the biggest influence he ever had on me, or one of the biggest influences he ever had on me, was explaining how, not even to me directly, through one of his programs, he was explaining how if you do something that you fear, and he uses an arbitrary scale, like let's say you fear swimming in the sea in shark-infested waters. Let's say on a scale of 1 to 100, that scares you on a level of 60, right? If you do that thing, you're rewarded with the equivalent units of courage. So you'll gain 60 units of courage. Obviously, we can't really quantify these things, but the analogy is the best. It's one of the best analogies we have, and that always stuck with me. It's like when you do those things you fear, you're always rewarded with that courage.
I can definitely see that. And I think there's a lot of things that, like, for example, they've closed down what they call the Chiang Mai Grand Canyon. It's the red mud quarry that we used to go cliff jumping at.
Yeah.
I think finally enough people have drowned there now where they've officially just closed it down. And it's almost always just an accident. I think the first person I heard of drowning there was drunk and he's being an idiot. The most recent one, they were fine, but the person behind them was an idiot and jumped right on top of them. So normally you're supposed to wait, watch them surface, clear, move out of the way, and then you kind of announce, I'm going to jump. This person just jumped straight in after, landed on this person's head, knocked him out, so he blacked out. And the problem with the quarry is it's not like a pool where you can just swim down and grab the guy and bring him up.
Because it's murky, right?
It's murky and it's deep. It's like 20 meters deep. It's literally impossible to go down and grab someone. So they finally closed it. And I remember a few years ago, I was standing there and everybody was jumping. Everybody was, in their early 20s, backpackers. So they're courageous. And I was thinking to myself, why should I jump? I've actually jumped from that exact spot before. So I've done it before, so I could do it. And I was logically telling myself, there's no point of putting myself in this dangerous situation again because I've already done it once. I have so much going for me because I think at that time, this was 3 years ago now, I had just started making money. It was like the first time ever, like I just started making money. I was finally in shape. I was finally happy. And I was thinking, why am I going to jump? Why am I going to risk it? But I did it anyways. And as soon as I did, I learned two things. One is how easy it is to injure yourself. Because I think I remember what it was. I think I bit my tongue or something.
No, jeez.
And luckily, it wasn't as bad as it could have been because easily you could just snap off, right? Mm-hmm. But second, I also did get those 60 courageous points. And after that, I really felt like instantly that it was worth it, that I gained something from it. So it really is this strange balance of, am I doing it because I'm afraid and it's an illogical fear and the chances of getting hurt are very small, or is the risk of getting injured or killed actually very high? Because in those cases you would still get the courage points. If anything, you get more, but then is it worth it?
Well, the first person who put me onto the nature loves courage quote is a very, very cool guy, one of the coolest dudes I know. I hope you're out there listening. I know he actually listens to your show. His name's Aurelien, and I remember we were having this conversation at a pool one day, and he said in his like French accent, bro, I read this book and this thing is in my mind, nature loves courage. And I was actually on a psychedelic at the time. Not a huge dose, but I was a little bit in an altered state. And I remember like turning to him and I was like processing what he said, and I was like, yeah, but you know what else? Nature hates stupidity. And I think you got to find that balance, dude, because there are a lot of things that, as you said, it takes courage to do, but that are just plain fucking stupid. And yeah, you better make sure you strike that balance properly. Hey,
I'm really glad you brought that up because that is the exact other side of it, and it's perfect. And life really is about that balance, right? Mm-hmm. The one thing that I would encourage everyone to just completely strike away is any illogical fears. So if you have a fear of heights or fear of the dark or a fear of snakes or spiders, get over it. Because even though, yes, a spider can kill you, a snake can kill you, the heights can kill you, in general, it doesn't. It's not something that you need to be afraid of day by day. It's something that is, in most cases, 99.9% of the time, will just keep you from enjoying life. And I'm going to use my mom as an example. She is afraid of lizards. And when I say lizards, I don't mean like big Komodo dragons that
the tiny
are
little
scary.
gecko.
She's afraid of geckos. Geckos are completely harmless. They just scour around. They eat bugs, maybe mosquitoes. They have no teeth. They're not poisonous. They don't bother you at all. And she's deathly afraid of them. And this is completely an illogical fear. And it pisses me off because it ruins our dinners and our family gatherings sometimes. Because, like, for example, when we were in Koh Lanta, Thailand, and we were sitting on our beautiful outdoor dining table at the villa that we rented. We had ordered Thai food takeaway. And she wanted to go sit inside on the couch and watch TV. And I was thinking, like, why are you doing this? We're a family. We're eating together. Just sit outside. And she wouldn't tell us, but it was because there was a small gecko running around. And when I found out, I said, you know what? If you want to go sit inside and eat by yourself and watch TV, go ahead. But you're not going to ruin this dinner.
Well, good call, dude. I wonder how. Have you thought that maybe you can help your mom get over that?
I've offered, I really have. And I told her, I said, there's no reason to be afraid of this. Do you want to get over this? Because I can help you. She doesn't even like hearing the word gecko.
How old is your mom?
She's now 60 almost.
Okay. Yeah, it's tough for people to change once they get that age, right? I always tell myself that I'll continue to evolve and grow and be open and adaptable, but I don't know if I will be. I mean, who knows? I'm not 60 yet.
The thing I love most about my culture and kind of growing up is the respect that we're taught to have for our family and our elders, and I think it's a very important thing. But this, on the flip side of it, is not helping each other grow and respecting someone for no reason. So when we were on the cruise on our very last day, we woke up for breakfast. And we were the first ones down there. And we were like tons of family. My sister, my sister-in-law, niece, nephew, aunt, uncle, 2 cousins. Right, it's like 11 of us in total. And me, my mom, and dad went down the buffet, and we noticed it was packed. Mainly because Celebrity Cruises was very disorganized. They wanted everyone to check out at 7 a.m. on the last day, which is ridiculous. No one's gonna do that. But then the breakfast was open from 6:30 or 7 to 9. So everyone brought their luggage down.
Oh wow!
And there was no room. There was a million people. It was just really like poorly executed on their side. And we got down there, and there was not a single seat. We walked around for 15-20 minutes to find an open table, and we just got lucky. Someone had just left. We got the table, and while we were sitting and eating, the table next to us opened. So immediately my dad claims it, puts the stuff there, and from his point of view, he's doing a great thing, because when my sister or my cousins come, they have a place to sit. But I had said to him, I said, you know what, maybe we should let someone else sit there because it's so crowded. And he got furious. He was like, what are you talking about? There's no seats available. If we don't claim this when your sister comes or when your cousins come, where are they going to sit? And I said to him, if everyone had that same mindset, we never would have had this table. As busy as it is, the only reason why we were even able to sit is because other people were, thinking of the greater good of strangers and saying, you know what, I'm not going to claim extra seats that aren't currently being used for our own personal good, and we got in a little bit of argument about it, and at first he said, you're supposed to just respect your dad. You're not supposed to, look down on his decisions. You're not supposed to even bring this stuff up, and he made a very good point, and I do respect him a lot. Same with my mom. But then I explained to them, I said, look, to me, it's exactly the same as if you were spitting on the ground in public. If I just respected you, I would never say anything. I would just let it be, because maybe that's in your culture, or that's, what you grew up doing. But as your son that cares about you and wants our generation to evolve and become even better, more civilized, people that fit in, especially, and don't, not even about fitting in, but just like being the best version of ourselves, I would definitely tell you, say, Dad, it is not appropriate to spit in public. And I think when I explained it that way, they finally kind of understood. But I didn't press the subject. I let them hold the space. And ironically, none of my family members came down for, at least half an hour. So easily someone could have sat there. By the time they came, there were plenty of seats available because other people had eaten and left.
That's the strangest thing. I've experienced this phenomenon so many times, I've lost track of it. But when I'm waiting for a train and the train arrives and there's a bunch of people crowding to get on, and I want to go claim a seat, that's like the human instinct, like I want to get mine before there's nothing left or before the other guy. It's a weird competitive element that I think functions from a very low level energy. I always note when I'm lucky enough or present enough to catch myself doing that and just let that go and just be like, if there's a seat for me, there's a seat for me. If not, and truly let it go. More often than not, I do get a seat, or so something will happen that'll lead to my better benefit or more harmony or whatever it is. Like something will happen that's positive. And if I forget that energy or forget about that and I just act from that low level energy and just like scramble and like fucking shoulder charge the old lady out of the way to get the seat, or I'm not saying I do that, but you get the point. Like I don't feel good about myself. I'm like, man, is this what I've become? Like, am I
even if you get the seat, you're not happy.
Yeah.
You feel like this, like.
And I've noticed that I see that so much in business, and like I think the biggest area that you see it in is beyond business even. It's just money in general. It's like people generally have that scarcity mindset, and that's why they screw each other over. It's like if you believe that money was an abundant thing and that like you're going to be taken care of as long as you put good energy out into the world and you keep doing your thing, you treat everyone fairly, and you don't scrabble and scrape and stab and cheat and lie and steal for money. You just don't, because you know, like, man, it's what goes around comes around, and like as long as I'm cool, things are going to be cool, you know. Whereas if you're coming from that other polarity, which is like, I got to trample the herd before they trample me, you get what I'm saying, right?
I absolutely agree with you. And I just recently found out that that saying, money is the root of all evil.
The love of money is the root of all evil.
That is the actual quote.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And
I was thinking about that today, actually.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just at lunch with an interesting guy, and he was teaching me something about SEO or something. He said, I don't know where the conversation was going, but he said, I just like money, man. And then I thought about what he said, and I was about to say, I like money too, but then I thought, is that a wise thought to have, or a wise thing to say and put out there into the universe? And I was like, I just said, no, I enjoy money. I enjoy money and what it can do, but I'm not going to sell myself to it.
I think that's the differentiator. I really enjoy the things that money can buy me and offer me and allow me to do. I really like the utility of money. I like also the reward of earning money as a way to kind of see that what I'm doing is working.
Way of keeping score almost.
Yeah.
All
right. But I don't think I've ever, and thankfully I guess, I've never like loved just money, you know? Like money's not even really real. If you think about it, the digits in our bank account, they're just fucking digits. You know, they're controlled by someone out there, a bank that they don't have the money. It's not like, it's not like they have like millions of dollars in cash laying around or trillions of dollars in cash laying around. Even if they did, it's just a bunch of paper. Like that's not like, what is that? You know, it's not like there's gold laying around in our treasuries to support that. Mm-hmm. And then even gold, why is that worth anything? Mm-hmm. It's such a crazy thing to think about.
It's arbitrary, but it's also one of the things you agree. It's one of the aspects of the game or the parameters of the game that you agree to when you come to play, or that you have to abide to if you want to play the game. Like I have a friend who, very smart man, hyper intelligent, and he tried to go to the extreme of just being like, I don't need money, I don't need to engage with it, like the world will take care of me. And he was pretty destitute pretty quickly, and that was really a big lesson for me. It made me realize that like money is something to be respected, you know, because when you say it's not really anything, I don't agree with that. I think money is actually a symbol of energy. It's a store of energy, and even though it might not be something sitting in your bank account like an actual safety deposit box with X number of gold bullion bars or X number of whatever that is, it's representing an energy that's been accrued or developed or created. Or
I definitely agree with that. I think it's very similar to even like a Bitcoin chain block. Mm-hmm. You know, maybe it's just a bunch of numbers somewhere, but yeah, it doesn't mean it's been something that has been created and it symbolizes something. I think we're very lucky where most likely it'll never happen to us, and knock on wood, but there's some, whenever currency devalues, that agreement has just been broken. And that is, it doesn't scare me, because I figure if it happens, it happens. And if it happens especially to the US dollar, the whole world's screwed. So it's something I don't really actively think about. But I do have compassion for people who, let's say they had worked their butts off, they had acquired their life savings in whatever their home currency was, and they were playing by the rules. They worked hard, they got rewarded for it, and that energy it symbolized what they had earned, what they can spend. And I don't know if it's overnight or over years, but it just goes away.
Yeah, I actually have had very similar thoughts as well, and realized that life isn't fair, man. Or at least if it is fair, we don't know what the parameters are. Like when you see that guy that loses everything overnight, even though he worked hard and played by all the rules, maybe we don't know what the actual rules are, or he didn't know what the actual rules were. And that's one of the things my business partner and I actually we have philosophical debates on it over and over, because he's always saying to me like, why don't you just chill out and enjoy life, dude? Like, even though I do enjoy life, I think what he's trying to say is like, why are you always trying to figure things out? Why are you like trying to find little hacks and this and that? And the thing I say to him all the time is like, what I'm just trying to do at this point is I'm just trying to figure out the rules of the game I'm playing. That's all I'm really doing. I want to know what the rules are so that I can be the best player of the game I can possibly be. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It definitely does make sense. I also do agree with your business partner where sometimes it's better not to overthink things. This is, to be honest, that is the number one reason why I don't do any psychedelics. It's because I don't want to overthink things. And I know 100% that if I used any, I would just think and think and think and think. And maybe I would learn something great. Maybe my mind would be expanded and opened to a whole new realm of possibilities, but I don't need it.
Okay, but here's the thing. Would you say that it's a fair or accurate statement that the reason you're doing so well today is because you put a lot of thought and mental energy into figuring how to get yourself into this position?
I definitely think to a point. I one of the things that helped me a lot was doing that 10-day silent meditation. And even though in those 10 days, I thought more than, some people do in their lifetime.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if I were to do that every day or if I did that every month, I don't think it'd be worth it. I think it's one of the things where I'm glad I did it once. I even did mushrooms once and I learned a lot from that experience. It was like 10 years ago or something. And I definitely expanded my mind that time. But more than thinking and expanding and reading and learning, it's just taking the action.
Taking action, yeah. I think it's a Latin term, praxis. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, it's just like, otherwise it turns into, a friend of mine uses the term mental masturbation. Like, it's how much can you take those visions and thoughts and ideas and put them into the world. Like, I think, yeah, but you have to have the thoughts in the first place to be able to take the action, I guess is my point. Do you agree?
Yeah. And I think that it's very important to have those positive thoughts and know what your journey is, know what your path is. And that's why, things like a Tony Robbins seminar, I think would be really beneficial for someone who doesn't know what their path is, doesn't know what's clear on their path. But I think that people who, let's say they go to a seminar like that and then they don't take the action, and then they look for more, more clarity, more guidance, and
there comes a point where it's just their wheels are spinning because they're trying to absorb so much different stuff and taking so many pieces of advice. And I mean, I'm sure you've been through that as well. Like, I've definitely been through that.
It's the same thing with online business. I mean, if you know nothing and you don't know even one path, I don't really see how you would make money online.
Yeah.
But if someone shows you a path and it generally works and there's some kind of guidance where you can follow along, but then instead of taking that action, you just you start researching this other method or the next path or the next thing, and you end up doing nothing. If anything, it hinders you.
100%. It's not really want to bring up martial arts, but it's one of the things I do. So like in jiu-jitsu, I see it all the time. There are those guys who they want to know every single technique and every single move, and the problem is they never get any real depth. They might get breadth of technical knowledge, but they never go deep into understanding one specific technique and why it works and how to use it. And I think it's tied in. Tim Ferriss speaks of the world reward specialists, and I think there's, especially with the proliferation of information and the easy access of information, we're bombarded with so much stuff, man. And I think what's becoming an invaluable skill in this age is the ability to focus and exclude information and actually disregard information. It's the other day, like a friend of mine, actually a mutual friend of ours, he said to me, you need to read this book. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to change your life. And the way he was talking about the book, I was like, I could feel that part of me was like, yeah, maybe this is got some answers that I can use. Maybe this is going to help me play the game. And I actually realized, no, I cannot read this book. I was about to buy it on Amazon and I realized, no, I'm not going to read this book. I have enough stuff floating around in my mind. I've got enough in my mind. I've got enough information, and I'm going to disregard this. And it was quite a pivotal moment for me, because most of the time, or before that, I would have got that book for sure.
This is why Tai Lopez is an idiot. Besides to the other reasons why he's an idiot.
Oh, jeez, I get a bad vibe of that too, for sure.
As the very first video I watched of him, I had that same icky bad vibe. I'm like, this guy does not have good intentions. There's something about him that is just this like disgusting, vile heart of a man. And I remember watching a video of this other guy that was not endorsing him, but kind of saying, hey, get off this guy's back. He's just recommending everyone read books. There's nothing bad about that. He gives great recommendations. And I think most people, when they make fun of him, it's because in every video, he's like, look at my Ferrari and look at my bookshelf.
I don't even think that is his Ferrari, dude. I think he just rents it for the day and then takes a video in front of it.
So I don't know anything about him. I don't even want to waste my mental energy thinking about it. Mm-hmm. But if I was going to guess, I imagine that in the beginning, he rented Ferraris or Lamborghinis or a big house, whatever it was, made these videos kind of showing like the lifestyle part of it and say, you know, again, giving this generic advice. And inside, kind of almost a little bit deep, you almost have to look for it. Like in the descriptions, he has a link to either some kind of course or an affiliate product of something that probably doesn't work. I'll bet money that it's some crap. But that's where he made a ton of money. And in general, if you have a big audience, you'll make a lot of money. And it's this, you know, hard thing in life. But if you have a big enough audience, there's going to be enough people who are going to follow you that they'll follow whatever you say, right? And I think what he's done now is with the money he's made, he's went out and bought that same Ferrari, that same Lamborghini.
He made it basically.
Yeah.
And you know what? A part of me actually, I don't appreciate the lying part of it, like pretending it's his Ferrari, but I do respect those people who have the confidence or the belief in themselves to go and like just say, look, I want to be the best in the next big thing in public speaking or whatever it is, and go out there and fake it till they make it. I respect that, but it's the lying, like, because that is misleading. That is just plain dishonest, like posing with a car that isn't yours. And again, I'm not sure if he does do that. I don't know. It just, that's what it appears to me at the moment.
That's exactly how it feels to me, and I'd be willing to bet that that's exactly how it happened.
And you know what? Again, I don't really have anything personally against the guy. I don't know much about his stuff. I've watched one or two of those commercials, and as you said, it's the way it makes me feel. And I think that the thing that I take solace in is, I think one of the rules of the game, and it's an unseen rule, and it's not really spoken about that much, but it's kind of like it's not really your actions that determine your karmic responses or your karmic things. It's the intention that you put into things. It's the energy behind things, and I think that. Yeah,
I feel like his energy is not pure.
Yeah. And let's talk about something else.
Well, actually, there's a couple of really good points with these things I just want to bring up. One is by reading a lot of books, even though it is great advice to read a lot of books, especially with, you know, by people who you can learn from, you can mentor, you know, that can mentor you through their books. I really believe that books are the best value in the world. For $10, you can get someone's, you know, 3-year journey or 30 years of mistakes. The reason why I don't like his advice is he just tells you to read a book a day, right? And the problem with that is, first off, you might be skimming through it if you're reading too quickly. But second, more importantly, you're not taking action. For me, my advice to everyone listening would be to pick up a book from someone who you want to learn from or follow their path, read it, and take action while you're reading it. So every time there's something, a chapter where there's an action to take that action. And then go back, read the book, take the next action, and continue that until that book is done. And then when you need more inspiration, when you need more actions, then pick up the next book. And that would be my advice to everyone.
I think anyone who says they're reading a book a day, unless you're an extreme outlier with a skill set that I'm not yet aware of, or an ability that I'm not yet aware of, and can absorb a full book and integrate and process and analyze all the principles contained therein in a day, I just don't think that's possible. I really don't. And that's another example of breadth instead of depth.
So the other thing the only reason why I even brought him up, and the only reason why I've actually considered making a video or something calling him out, isn't because, like, at first I thought, you know what, he can do whatever he wants. If someone follows him or finds him, that's on them. The only reason why I was tempted to make a video, and I might still, is because he's paying for ads now that pre-roll in front of my videos.
Oh shit.
So people who want to watch one of my videos, they're forced to watch his, and then they see this flash, they see this fancy Lamborghini and fancy Ferrari, and they think, oh, who's this guy? Like, he must be endorsed by Johnny if it's on his video, or you know, he must know what he's talking about because he's on there. And the second reason is, and I feel really bad for kind of, you know, the world now, is one of the people I really like in the world is Mark Cuban. You know, I love him on Shark Tank. You know, he's a brilliant entrepreneur. But this kind of just shows how having a big audience is, I don't say a bad thing, but it gives people permission to do stupid things. Where Mark went on his show, on his YouTube channel, which is basically an endorsement for Tai Lopez, and, you know, kind of lends him credibility.
Wow.
But Mark probably doesn't know anything about him. He just knows that this guy's a big YouTube audience, and Mark wanted to go on to promote his app, his Cyberdust messaging app. And it's this crazy thing where now people who aren't very savvy, that don't know anything about online business, they will see, oh, well, Mark Cuban is famous. He's on Shark Tank. He's, a successful guy. He's on this guy's show. Therefore, Tai Lopez must be legit as well. And Tai Lopez has this Ferrari and this Lamborghini, so he must be legitimate. So I should just learn from him.
You know what never ceases to amaze me, Johnny, is when you see a guy like Mark Cuban, right? I don't know what his net worth is. It's my understanding it's in the billions, if I'm not mistaken. When you get to that level, like, do you really need to be going on someone's show to sell something? That's the question. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't really gel with me. I can understand if you're Bill Gates and you want to promote the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and you go on some guy's show. I get that. But I mean, why would he need... It just blows my mind. Do you have any answers to that?
I don't know when, I guess enough is enough, right? Or maybe people have bigger goals and ambitions when I'm there. Maybe I'll think that's enough. But at the same time, I know for me, for sure, 100%, it's... I know at some point, I won't need more money. I might make more money, but I won't have it be like a priority. And I know this for sure because even today, even though there's a lot of things I could do to make a lot more money, I don't really care, And I know that as long as I continue doing what I'm doing in a very authentic way, a way that I enjoy doing it, and also in a way that I am proud of doing it, the income will come, the money will come, and maybe I can fast track it, or I can 10x it if I did something differently. But that's not like in my vision, And I know even today, even though I don't have as much money as my net worth as my goal would be, even now I'm just like, I don't care. Like there's enough money. Like I'm, especially because I live pretty frugally,
and you can sleep soundly.
And I sleep very soundly. Yeah.
I used to work with a guy who was wealthy and very wealthy, and he couldn't sleep properly, man. And at the time I didn't figure it out, but now I know it's because he fucked so many people over, and like it weighs on you, man. It weighs when you're putting that energy out. Like, look, maybe Tai Lopez has $10 million in his account, and maybe he's a psychopath that doesn't feel human emotion and in that way, or a sociopath. I don't know which the term is.
Maybe he's both.
Yeah, maybe he's both. But either way, that is going to come with some serious karma, dude. That's some spiritual baggage, like lying to that many people.
I really believe so.
Yeah.
I think actually one of my missions, one of the reasons why I do this is, and one of the reasons why I want to grow my audience so much, is I want to be that. Like, I feel like it's my moral job, my imperative to counter that with real information, with information that actually works. Interviewing people who have actually been successful, have actually done what they're saying, and this is why I only interview people who I have met in person. I think like 99.9% of my interviews are in person with someone that I know personally, that I've met and I know their character, versus somebody that's a big name that maybe can give me a lot more downloads, that has, this cheesy marketing story. And I get these emails all the time with these big name guests that can drive my audience higher, but I just refuse to have them on because I feel like people listening to my show, they know that whoever I have on, I am vetting. I am saying, this is someone that you should listen to. And if not, I'll call them out on air.
Yeah, good for you, man. I completely understand. But at the same time, I often think to myself, like, maybe if I was Mark Cuban, I would be making those exact same decisions. In fact, I know I would. There's that expression, but by the grace of God goes I. Have you heard that expression?
No.
So it's in the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, and he's saying, if you ever see a poor person or someone acting inappropriately, or that you look down upon, or whatever, someone in a bad situation, you just always remind yourself that if you were in their shoes, like if you had their genetic makeup and were born into that family at that time, and that socioeconomic background, you would be that person. You would be in the exact same spot. And it's called There But By the Grace of God Go I, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if I would be. And actually, here's an example of that is, I was wondering, and I was still really thinking the other day, if I was really poor.
You think too much, bro?
Yeah. If I was living in, like, let's say one of these fishing villages, and there was, garbage all over, the floor, right? What would I do? Would I just accept it and leave it? Or would I clean it up, at least around my village or my house? And I really thought about this. And I actually asked on Twitter, what are the poorest countries in the world that don't have a litter problem? A lot of places like India or Malaysia, or Indonesia, are disgusting when it comes to just garbage and litter around their beaches and their public places. India, just on the streets everywhere. And I thought about it, I'm like, if anything, the poorer you are, the less you should be buying things like disposable diapers or things wrapped in plastic. So you should actually have less garbage to throw away in the first place, so less waste to even manage. The cheapest things in the world are not wrapped in plastic. They're not disposable. They're they're things that you would have to reuse, right? And also the second part I thought is it's free to be clean, and it's common sense to me to want to not have garbage around where you live. It's more beautiful. It's more hygienic. It's just nicer. It feels nicer to not have garbage around. And I am 100% sure that even if I was born in like the poorest place in the world, I would see this garbage around and I would clean it up.
But you're disregarding, this is a very interesting topic. I think you might be disregarding the impact of nurture, the nature versus nurture argument. What you're saying is you're looking at the nature part of it. You're saying that that's your nature to be clean and everything, but you don't know, like a person who lives in, let's say, hypothetically, a dirty household, they might have been nurtured in a society, in a culture or a neighborhood that doesn't really put that much emphasis on having clean streets. And I would like to say that I don't think many of those people want to live in those conditions. I think that there's so many factors and so many things going on for, let's say, I don't know, the poor Indian villager who's got garbage outside his front door. I mean, when you realize how miserable and how downtrodden some of those people are, and the fact that this guy's been carrying something on his head for 10 or 12 hours and he's got 8 children, and like he gets home and the only thing he wants to do is literally eat and sleep because he's just broken and he doesn't have time to go and mow his lawn because he doesn't have a lawn, and even if he did, he just doesn't have the energy. I think there's so many variables and so many things that go into it. That I know you're a clean guy and I understand what you're saying, but try and that expression there, but the grace of God go
I think what you're saying definitely makes logical sense, and I think the problem is that's an excuse we give people. We just assume, and from a point of view of just like a humanitarian point of view, you're like, oh yeah, you know what, their lives are so tough. But from my point of view, I'm like, they shouldn't be buying that crap in the first place. It's more expensive to buy something in plastic than to buy a potato or something that's not wrapped in plastic, for example. You have kids that you can force them and say, when you get home from school, or maybe you're so poor you're not even in school, this is your duty. And I really believe that if somebody wanted their house to be clean, or their space around them, or in their village, it could be. It doesn't cost any money. If anything, it costs less money. And I don't think it's an excuse.
Interesting. Some of what you said, I agree with. Some of it, I don't. But either way, it's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah. So actually, one of the reasons why this is actually really, really interesting is I think of this at the same lines of excuses. Somebody is so busy at work, they're so tired. They have so many bills to pay. They're already in debt. They don't want to start a business on the side. They're too tired to do it. They're too tired to even read a book. They have everything kind of going against them, and that can be an excuse not only that they give themselves, but other people give them and say, you know what, yeah, their life is so tough. I don't expect them to want to go to adult school and learn English, or better their lives. But I look at it, I'm like, because I've seen so many people that defy all odds, and they say, you know what, this is my goal. This is something that's important for me. This is going to make my life better. This is going to make the world better, society better. I'm just going to do it anyways.
Fair enough. I mean, I have often thought about that, and I've had discussions with people where I do believe that there are very few situations that you can't get out of with enough willpower and focus, but it definitely is harder for some than others. No doubt about that.
Definitely harder, but the rewards are that much greater.
That's true. Yeah, I think about that a lot. That's one of the things I've spoken about on many other podcasts as well. It's like the guy who's born into a wealthy family and has a trust fund and everything's given to him on a silver platter. Like, goddamn, no wonder a lot of those guys just are miserable. They end up as drug addicts, or it's because, where do you go from there? Where do you go from, your first car is a Ferrari? And, I don't know. It's just, for me...
I definitely agree with that. And, let's say someone listens to this, if you're poor and you're from India and there's, your salary might be $150 a month, it might be 10 times harder for you to start a business than someone who grew up in the US or in the UK or something to make $1,000, right? But by you making that extra $1,000 online, your life is going to improve 100-fold. Versus someone from the UK making an extra $1,000 barely adds to their beer and drinking fund.
That's so true. And it's strange, my perception and thoughts and opinions have shifted a lot during this conversation, but now I'm thinking of a guy like Tai Lopez, and I don't know what his background is, but I would presume that he wasn't a trust fund kid or doesn't come from a very wealthy background. And you got to respect the hustle. For me, I respect the hustle. The fact that he may or may not have been using dishonesty to do it is not cool, but at least he's been hustling, right?
I don't respect that type of hustling. And if anything, I'm actually almost very disappointed that it's not even his fault. I honestly think it's the fault of the people looking at him and watching the videos. And I don't want to say you punish the stupid or people are dumb for falling for it, but it's I guarantee you it's because people are looking for that shortcut, and they're like, and they see that flash, they see the Lamborghinis, and they're like, I can do this for doing nothing. What's the secret? Tell me the get rich quick overnight scheme. And it is thousands or tens of thousands, now millions of people who are looking for that's why he's become popular. And I know this is true because when I used to read books, never did I read a book and follow the long path. I read the book to look for that one magic bullet. Then I went to the next book to look for that one magic bullet, and in hopes that would allow me to get my end goal without doing the work.
But here's the interesting thing. This is something I've had in my mind for a long time. You read all those books and you looked for all those shortcuts, right? And do you think that it could be argued that all of those shortcuts actually added up to one long path? And
no,
that
definitely
you
not.
don't think so?
Definitely not. For example, when I was just out of college and trying to figure out how to meet women, how to talk to a girl at a bar, I read every single book, and that's like those 2 years I got into the game. I read every book there was looking for that magic, pickup line or magic way to get a girl to be attracted to you. And in every one of those books, I'm sure, at least the good ones, would say things like, you should get in shape, you should, be confident, you should dress well, you should, be interesting, you should have experiences to share with women, you should be able to be confident enough to be able to have a good conversation, or even things like, girls like rich guys, girls like guys who are wealthy or famous, or the leader of men, someone who is accomplished, someone who, leads a group of, whatever it is, right? Those are the things I always skipped over because I'm like, oh, that's too much work. I don't want to do that. What's the pickup line I can say? What's like the magic trick, literally a magic trick card, what's the card trick I can learn to get a girl to be interested in me? Versus if I had read that very first book and saw, oh, women like men who are confident, rich, and attractive. Maybe I should just go to the gym, get in the best shape I can be in, work on my business so I can be accomplished and have money, and then, have that organically lead to confidence because I would have earned it.
Yeah, this is a fascinating subject, and I could spend hours talking about it. One of the things, I have this on my mind a lot, Johnny, that the journey looking in other fields of endeavor, for example, jiu-jitsu, right? Jiu-jitsu is just about a collection of shortcuts. And you could look at a technique like the quickest way to finish the fight with a strangle or an armbar or whatever. That's in itself a shortcut. It's a little path to getting the objective you're looking for, right? But one shortcut is never enough. And I think that there is a journey that many people go down, which is they're trying to get to the destination by collecting shortcuts, and eventually it will actually get them to the destination, but you need a hell of a lot of shortcuts, and those shortcuts will usually lead you to becoming the thing on the long path anyway. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but the way I see it is that armbar, people see it being a 3-second move, the shortcut. You get them in that move, you win the match. They have to submit. But I don't see it as that 3-second move. I see it as the foundation. Are they physically fit enough to have enough endurance to roll, to be flexible enough to get in that position, to be strong enough where they can maneuver in there? Do they have the correct base and the correct balance to get there? Do they have the right positions? Do they know how to advance to that position to get to that arm bar? Do they know how, to me, that's what I see. I don't see the arm bar as a 3-second move. I see it as years of foundation work and then
that's interesting.
And
that comes at a very good time because funny enough, the meeting I had before this one was with an expert on a specific type of internet marketing, and he was giving me a bunch of shortcuts, right? And now sitting here with you, I was talking to you, and when you made the point you just did, I started to think, maybe I'm looking for a shortcut. And then I realized, no, dude, like I've built my website over years, and I've earned the right to use the shortcut. Do you know what I mean?
So it's not even the shortcut. It's like I don't want to say the finishing move or the finishing touch, but like the execution button. Like it's the buy now button. Like if someone never learned a single submission and they just focused on, getting in shape, having good cardio, being in an advanced position, let's say a wrestler, okay? Someone's a collegiate wrestler and then they're doing jiu-jitsu. They might be able to dominate their opponent when it comes to stamina and strength and position and control. But if they don't know any submission moves, that's it. What's the point, right?
Good point. That's a good point.
But that person, they need to know they need to put that buy now button on their website. They've built the audience, they built the trust, they built the traffic. They need that buy now button.
Good call. And most people just want the buy now button without building the website. Yeah. And that's where it fucks up.
Exactly. Yeah. By the way, for you guys who don't know who Nick is, he is one of the world's top rated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu instructors. He's a black belt the first black belt ever under Roger Gracie, who is also world renowned. If anything, is the highest world renowned Jiu-Jitsu black belt in the world.
Thanks for that, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was an interesting conversation. Probably the best one we've had. I enjoyed it.
I'm really glad that you wanted to be on the show again. I feel like this finally, the third time's a charm, because I think every time I've wanted you on the show, I've wanted to share the type of conversations that we have off air. And that's kind of a big goal of this podcast, is to extend my network of friends and, entrepreneurs to my audience. And so many times people hold back a bit, And I think this is the one time that we really just kind of let everything go. Yeah, we're 100% open. And I love that.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I appreciate you having me on.
Another tidbit about Nick that people don't know is he was on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh yeah. Back in the day. It's been a while.
And I feel like this version of you, if you were one-on-one with him instead of having all those other people around, he would have, that conversation would have opened up so much more.
I'm sure I'll go back on the show and then we'll have I'm not going to be stoned again, because last time he pulled out this huge joint and I hadn't been stoned for a long time, so I had zero tolerance, and I got so high and I was kind of like, I was way too fucked up, to be fair. And it would be better to have a one-on-one conversation with him, I think. I'm looking forward to that day.
So Joe Rogan, if you're listening, have Nick back on. Actually, invite me over if you want, because I would love to be on the show. All right, Nick, if people want to get in touch with you, what's your website? How do they follow you? How can they be in touch?
So if you're a jiu-jitsu guy, or you want to be a jiu-jitsu guy, go to jujitsubrotherhood.com and check that out. And if you want to hear me having conversations similar to the one I just had with Johnny, go to digitalcommunion.com and you'll find my podcast.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Big thanks to Raul from the UK. Big thanks from any guy living in the UK and moving to Thailand. 5 stars. I want to start off by giving you, saying thank you for putting up such a valuable content. Came across your podcast around December last year when I started my e-commerce journey and was hooked from the first episode I listened to. What I like about most is you have a lot of interesting topics, business, travel, and health related. So guys, listen to Johnny's podcast and don't forget to take action. Cheers. So we also have RJ Ramirez from the US. Great show. Johnny is truly the boss. I binge listened last night from episode 1 to the latest one. I've heard Johnny evolve as a podcaster, person, entrepreneur, and investor. He has inspired me to follow a similar path. Life is too short for the regular 9 to 5. Keep it up. Keep growing, my friend. Keep inspiring, my friend. Thank you, RJ, for that. And last but not least, for this week, we have Ryan from Canada. 5 stars. I'm a lifelong entrepreneur and recent digital nomad myself. I discovered this podcast and Johnny's blog about 3 months ago, and I've been inspired like crazy. I'll be kicking off my own e-commerce stores in November after finishing a couple projects, not to mention everything else I've learned from his guests. Totally worth a listen. So thank you all so much for taking the time to leave these great 5-star reviews in the iTunes store. I know it's a bit of a pain, but I really, really appreciate it because it helps spread the word and brings us up in the rankings so other people just like you can find these episodes. So tell your friends and leave a review, and I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.